So with me now is Sonny Dhadley, a man who beat his demons and came out fighting the other end. Thank you so much for coming on, Sonny. We really appreciate it. So you have got an incredible story. You were a former substance misuser, but you've managed to turn your whole life around. I mean, let's start from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I had a very good upbringing. There was no definitive reason as to why my life would take that course, but through one thing happening and another, I ended up in a very dark and cold place. I don't feel that there's any prerequisite for somebody to end up with a life where they're addicted. But the good news is that there is a way out.
So I mean, you mentioned that good upbringing that you've had. So the addiction didn't stem from any troubles at home? No,
I mean, to be honest with you, I've thought about kind of the reasons why, and I lost people through bereavement at a young age. There were other things that happened, but normal day-to-day things that happen to everybody. I just, looking back at it and reflecting, it would have been nice to speak to somebody perhaps at that stage, rather than it being manifest in maybe another way. Perhaps, I don't know, but that's kind of my take on it.
Was it to do with, I remember reading, you kind of fell into the wrong crowd? Yeah,
I mean, lots of people in the world do lots of different things, and I was quite attracted to people that were not necessarily good, not fundamentally bad, but that some of their habits and the things that they were doing were kind of quite a bit darish. So I was quite intrigued by all of that, and I'd say that's one of the major contributing factors to kind of why I ended up the way I did.
Well, as I understand, you had really good grades. You were a really good student.
Yeah, I mean, I attended private school. I excelled within sports. So there was no kind of definite indicator that my life would take a certain path. But then again, there isn't that indicator for most people.
And so by 18, you say that you've been completely taken over by the addiction.
Yeah.
What do you mean by this?
What I mean by that is it disallowed me from living a life that was meaningful. So at the depths of kind of my addiction, I was literally doing whatever I had to do to get what I needed to get me through the day, and that wasn't just on a Monday or on a Friday. That was every day of my life, and it hurt a lot of people close to me, and unfortunately that was a unintended consequence. But yeah, literally it was as if I was enslaved by a particular thing that made me keep going back.
So, were you aware? Could you make your own decisions, or?
I think my decision making was impaired by my level of kind of addiction. Although I had good intentions and I wanted to achieve certain things, with all the best intentions in the world, things didn't necessarily pan out the way I'd like them to have done. But hopefully now I've gone some way to kind of restoring some of that.
I mean, at the age of 18, lots of people are thinking about university and, preparing for their career. Did you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, without getting too philosophical, from a young age, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I wasn't one of these people that went to school and achieved certain grades in certain subjects and then know exactly what I wanted to do at university, which would lead me onto a profession. I think people for whom that happens, it's fantastic. But I would suggest that there's a lot of people out there that don't know what they want to do. But the choice that I made is definitely not the thing to do.
Okay, and I understand it's sensitive, but what about the impact it had on your family when you were going through this?
Yeah, like I said, it was an unintended consequence. It wasn't something that intentionally anyone sets out to do. But I think without raising awareness within society, tackling stigma, speaking to family members, there'll be more and more people, and there probably are out there right now, who will feel that the ones that are closest to them are the ones that are furthest away from them in terms of supporting them. And I think this is one thing that we need to, as a society, overcome.
At the time, did you recognise that you had a problem with substances?
Yeah, it was difficult for me not to be honest. But let's not get it wrong. I mean, part of it was very enjoyable, but unfortunately, the negative consequences started outweighing the positive consequences, and that became apparent very quickly. But from there onwards, it was a kind of an ongoing battle to try and get to where I needed to get to, so that I could live a life that was meaningful for me.
And at the time, what support was on offer to you?
I mean, I had to proactively look for support. I was lucky enough not to get embroiled within the criminal justice system, which can be an automatic feeder into kind of services to help and support people. But literally, it was a case of seeing a worker once a week or once every couple of weeks, taking certain medications. But a lot of the rest of my life was very similar. So, you know, I've dedicated my life now to ensuring that the rest of the life bit is as good as it should be.
And we're going to come on to, you know, how you've managed to turn your life around, because you really have. It's been absolutely incredible what you do now to you know, how you were back then. But we'll be coming on to that bit after this next break. But before you come back to me and Sunny, you'll be meeting Carl Jones. Back to my guest for this evening now, and with me here is Sunny Dhadley. So Sunny, 15 years on, and you've completely managed to turn your life around. Yeah,
my existence now is something that I enjoy. It's enriched, and I think everyone should have an opportunity to live a life that's meaningful and beautiful.
And after you beat your addiction, was it clear what you wanted to do in life?
One thing was clear, and that was that I really wanted to use my experiences to help other people. I wasn't sure how that would manifest itself, but thankfully I've managed to find various avenues to do that.
So moving on to how you help people, you're now working with the service user involvement team, which is based down in Wolverhampton. For those of us who aren't familiar with it, just tell us exactly what they do.
Okay, so basically, initially I started as a volunteer. I moved into management within about 6 months. And basically it's a peer-led organisation, so everyone within my service has had personal experience of addiction. And what we do is we train them to use that past negative experience in a positive way to help other people. And we'll literally do whatever it takes to get somebody on the right path or moving in the right direction. From education, training, employment, volunteering. I mean, we've got really good employment outcomes, and that's not good for us, that's good for individuals. And basically, we demonstrate to the world that there's another way that people can live.
I understand that when you joined Suits, which is what it's short for, it was very early stages.
Yeah, so I mean, I started it, as I said, as a volunteer. Within about 5 months, I was a project worker. A month after that, the manager left, and I applied for that. And I've been managing Suit now for almost 7.5 years. And I feel as I've grown, the organisation has grown too. So it's been a really nice kind of movement on both parts.
But there's something else as well. You've also recently set something of your own, haven't you?
Yeah, I set up a trading arm to the organisation, and it's a community interest company called the Recovery Foundation. We found lots of people were coming to us with lots of different type of requests, so we formalised that in the form of a company, and we use the Recovery Foundation now to deliver training. We go into schools, housing associations, and we also undertake consultancy projects to try and help other areas develop similar projects to the ones that we've been able to.
And tell me about some of the work that you do for Suit.
Okay, so I have overall, obviously, management responsibility, but a day can go from helping a homeless person who's suffering from addiction. We're getting more and more kind of people with immigration needs who are also suffering from addiction. So it really, every day differs. I'm a national strategic lead, so I sit on various boards. I get to very nicely travel to other parts of the world and look at how I can use my experiences, my organisation's experiences, and the experiences of literally thousands of people that we've supported in informing policymakers and how to develop kind of services in their area.
As a former substance misuser, what's it like seeing people go through the same thing as what you did?
It breaks my heart, but one of the things I realised very early is that I can't force people to change, and nor would I want to force people to change. But what I can do is try and plant that seed within them, so that that seed might grow in 2 years' time or 4 years' time or after the next prison sentence. It's impossible for me to dictate that. But what I can make sure is that every time that we come into contact with somebody, it's the best spent time that we could have with them.
And on top of all of this, you've also been awarded with something, haven't you?
Yeah, in March of last year, I was awarded Chartered Manager of the Year. Regionally for the Midlands, and that was a fantastic achievement. None more so than obviously my starting point, but then I would have been up against people from kind of multi-billion-pound corporations, and for them to choose somebody from a little charity and a company based in Wolverhampton obviously demonstrates not just to myself but to anyone that, you know, things can be achieved.
And very quickly, before we go, if people want to get into contact with Suits, how do they do this?
Yeah, so they can get in contact with us via our website. It's probably the easiest way, which is www.suitteam, but with one T.com, and they can get all of our contact numbers, email addresses. We also won the Queen's Award.
I'm sorry I've got to leave you.
That's
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been lovely speaking to you. We're about to go to break.